Welcome back to the Takeout. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Joined now by Washington Democratic Congressman Adam Smith, ranking Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee. For the purposes of symmetry, let me ask the question I've asked my two previous guests. How is the war going, and what are you most worried about?
Yeah, I don't think it's going great. There's sort of three ways of looking at it. One is how are we doing at degrading Iran's ability to wage war and with their missile capacity, their drone capacity. There, I think we're making some solid progress. We don't have specific numbers on it. Connected to that was a desire to destroy their capacity to rebuild. That we don't really have any information on. So however much we're destroying their capability, destroying their Navy, their Air Force, their missiles, they've been attacked before. They could rebuild. But then there's the other two pieces to this, and Representative Bacon alluded to this. Supposedly, the goal of this war isn't just to degrade Iran, it's to permanently change them. And on that front, we seem to be making no progress whatsoever. The hardline elements seem to be firmly in place and willing to fight this out for as long as possible and rebuild. And there doesn't seem to be any plan on our end to change that. And then third, there's the collateral damage. We have a region now, I think it's somewhere around 14 countries have been dragged into this one way or another. We've lost 7 U.S. service members. A number of civilians have been killed. We've had the tragic killing of over 150 people in that girls' school in an unintentional strike. The global economy is teetering. Price of oil is skyrocketing, and the entire global economy is being disrupted. So the costs are high, and the benefits are not as great as I think some people have said because they don't really have much permanence to them.
Let me ask you what I asked the defense secretary last Friday. Is it possible to obtain the objectives President Trump has laid out and identified about the future of Iran's nuclear program without ourselves or in concert with the Israelis identifying and extracting the known quantities, about 950 pounds at least, of highly enriched uranium?
Yeah, it seems unlikely. And even then, also, again, you have to block their capacity to rebuild it. It's not that hard to build centrifuges, sadly, and it's not that hard to enrich uranium. But that's the other interesting aspect of this attack. To date, we've received no reports that their nuclear program has been struck at all, even as we have President Trump saying that, gosh, they were weeks away from being able to build a bomb. Absurdly, at one point, he said they would have used it already. So we don't really have any insight on how we're weakening their nuclear program. And yeah, it's pretty well impossible to do that from the air. I've been in these briefings for like 15 years now as we've examined options to take out their nuclear program in an aerial campaign, and they all reach the same conclusion. You could set it back a little bit. Most of the estimates were like 6 to 9 months, which is what sort of played out after Operation Midnight Hammer. We didn't obliterate it. We set it back, and by the president's own admission, we set it back, I don't know how long ago June was, by like 6 months.
So you heard Matt Gutman, perhaps, but if you didn't, I'll summarize. Our correspondent in Tel Aviv talking about the Strait of Hormuz, where there were 3 attacks on tankers today. There are reports of efforts by the Iranians to mine it, or if not mine it, do something to directly attack any vessel that tries to go through the most narrow and shallow passageway in that strait. And we have some history in the United States of escorting vessels back in the 80s, but that was when Iran and Iraq were at war with each other, and Iran really wasn't trying to stop anything at the Strait of Hormuz. Clearly, it now wants to stop things there. This seems to me to be problematic, to put it mildly.
Yes, Major, it does. And basically what it means is the Strait of Hormuz is shut down. Might some civilian tankers and other ships be able to get through with an escort? Yeah, they might. None of them are going to want to take that chance. So it is effectively shut down. And again, that's another, side effect of this war that wasn't sufficiently calculated. And I think Representative Bacon summed it up pretty well. Iran has done a lot of bad things. And I don't disagree with that. The lesson we should have learned from the last 25 years is just because a leader in a country is doing a lot of bad things to then assume that war is the answer to that there is a military solution to solve the problem and make things better. That is not the case, and I don't think it's the case here either. I think there are other ways to contain Iran, not to eliminate the threat. But again, this isn't eliminating the threat either. It's just reducing it at a very, very high cost.
When you speak of high costs, what are your constituents telling you, and how much do you think they should brace for higher gas prices and everything inflationary that comes with that?
Well, they've already seen it. They've already seen gas prices, and I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but it's like go up somewhere between 20 and in some cases as high as 50%. And you are quite correct. The other thing about gas prices is they're so connected to everything else because you ship products. And gas prices go up, the cost of business goes up pretty much everywhere. The cost of energy is a huge part of many businesses and an enormous part of some. So it's going to drive it up. But also, there's a lot of other business that goes on in the Middle East that has been totally disrupted. Fertilizer, a lot of fertilizer comes out of the Middle East and is shipped through there, which is going to have a huge effect on food prices. Now, I mean, there are estimates that this war continues, and I don't know how much longer, but it's certainly if it continues for more weeks and months. One estimate was that global GDP would see a 2% dip. I mean, that is a huge impact on the economy. And again, by Congressman Bacon's own admission, we don't seem to have a plan for actually bringing about either regime change or a fundamental shift in the approach of whatever ever regime remains. So I think I don't think we should have started the war, and I think we should stop it as soon as possible.
Washington Democrat Adam Smith, ranking Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee. Always a pleasure. Thanks, sir.